good day everyone. I'm Daniela de la Cruz and we were discussing about the antimicrobial resistance. So what is antimicrobial resistance? It is the resistance that threatens the effective prevention and treatment of an ever-increasing range of infections caused by bacteria, parasites, and also the viruses and fungi. So we have the key facts about the antimicrobial resistance. So key facts about this is it is declared that antimicrobial resistance is one of the top 10 global public health threats facing humanity. And misuse and overuse of antimicrobials are the main drivers in the development of drug-resistant pathogens. And also, the cause of AMR or antimicrobial resistance to the economy is significant. In addition to death and the disability, prolonged illness results in longer hospital days. The needs of the more expensive medicines and financial challenges for those impacted. And antimicrobial resistance is a global health and development threat, requires urgent multi-sectoral in order to achieve the sustainable development of growth. So let us know what are the antimicrobials. Antimicrobials, including antibiotics, antivirals, antifungals, and antiparasitics, are medicines that we are going to use to prevent and treat infections in humans, animals, and also in plants. So why is antimicrobial resistance a global concern? Yes, that's asking. Because the emergence and spread of drug-resistant pathogens that have acquired new resistance mechanism leading to antimicrobial resistance continues to threaten our ability to treat common infections. Especially alarming is the rapid global spread of multi- and pan-resistant bacteria, also known as superbugs, that causes infections that are not treatable with existing antimicrobial in medicines such as antibiotics. Antibiotics are becoming increasingly ineffective as the drug resistance spreads globally, leading to more difficult to treat infections and death. The new antibacterials are urgently needed, for example, to treat carbapenem-resistant gram-negative bacterial infections as identified in the WHO priority pathogen list. However, if people do not change the way antibiotics are used now, these new antibiotics will suffer the same fate as the current ones and become ineffective. So what accelerates the emergence and spreads of antimicrobial resistance? So AMR or antimicrobial resistance occurs naturally over time, usually through genetic changes. So antimicrobial resistant organisms are found in people, animals, food and plants and environment, in water, soil, and air. So they can spread from person to person or between people and animals, including from food or animal origin. So the main drivers of antimicrobial resistance include the misuse and overuse of antimicrobials. So lack of access to clean water or sanitation and hygiene or proper wash for both humans and animals. 4. Infection and disease prevention and control and in healthcare facilities. So affordable medicine, vaccines, and diagnostics, lack of awareness and knowledge, and lack of enforcement of legislation. So in our present situation, drug resistance in bacteria, so bacterial infection including urinary tract infections, sepsis, sexually transmitted infection, and some forms of diarrhea, high rates or resistance against antibiotics frequently used to this infection have been observed worldwide. So indicating that we are running out of effective antibiotics. For example, the rate of varied from 8.4% to 92.9% for Escherichia coli, from 4.1 to 79.4 for Klebsiella pneumonia in countries reporting to the Global Antimicrobial Resistance and Use Surveillance System, or GLASS. So there are many countries or part of the world where this treatment is now ineffective in more than half of the patients. So colistin is the only last resort treatment for life-threatening infections caused by carbapenem resistant. And bacteria resistant to colistin have also been detected in several countries and regions, causing infections for which there is no effective antibiotic treatment at present. So, drug resistance in Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, antibiotic resistance of Mycobacterium tuberculosis strains are threatening progress in containing the global tuberculosis epidemic. WHO estimates that there were about 500,000 new cases of rifampicin resistant or TB or RTB identified globally, of which the vast majority have multi-drug resistant, a form of tuberculosis that is resistant to the two most powerful anti-TB drugs. Only one-third of the approximately 500,000 people who develop MDR, RRTB were detected and reported. So the MDR-TB requires treatment courses that are longer, less effective, and far more expensive than those who are non-resistant TB. Less than 60% of those treated for MDR-TB are successfully cured. So, drug resistance in viruses. So, this antiviral drug resistance is an increasing concern in immunocompromised patient populations because we're ongoing on a viral replication and prolonged drug exposure led to the selection of resistant strains. So resistance has developed to most antivirals including antiretroviral or ARV drugs. So, all antiretroviral or ARV drugs, including newer classes, are at risk of becoming partly or fully inactive because of the emergence of drug-resistant HIV or HIVDR. People receiving antiretroviral therapy can acquire HIVDR. And people can also be infected with HIV that is already drug resistant. Levels of treatment of HIVDR or PDR to non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors among adults initiating first-line therapy exceeded to 10%. So, in majority of the monitored countries, Asia and Latin America, the prevalence of PDR among infants is alarming high. In sub-Saharan Africa, over 50% of the infants newly diagnosed with HIV carry a virus that is resistant to NNRTI. So, informed by these findings, latest by the WHO guidelines now recommended the adoption of a new drug and as the prepared first-line treatment for adults and children. The use of this drug is particularly urgent in averting the negative effects of resistance to NHRTIs. So the drug resistance in malaria parasite, this is the emergence of drug resistant parasites poses one of the greatest threats of malaria control and results in increased malaria morbidity and mortality. So the artemisinin-based combination therapies or ACTs are the recommended first-line treatment for uncomplicated P or falciparum malaria and are used by most malaria endemic countries. So, AACTs are a combination of an artemisinin component and partner drug. In the WHO, Western Pacific region and in the whole Southeast Asia region, partial resistance to artemisinin and resistance to number of the ACT partner drugs has been confirmed that through the studies conducted between this year, this makes selecting the right treatment more challenging and requires close monitor. So after we tackle that, here's my partner Bea Del Mundo. We will be discussing the next topic of antimicrobial resistance.
The prevalence of drug resistance of fungal infection is increasing and exacerbating the already difficult treatment situation. Many fungal infections have existing treatability issues such as toxicity, especially for patients with other underlying infections such as HIV. Drug-resistant Candida auris is one of the most common invasive fungal infections that is already widespread. So now let us talk about the causes of antimicrobial resistance. Microbes such as virus, fungi, parasites, and bacteria are living organisms that evolve over time. Their primary function is to reproduce, thrive, and spread quickly and efficiently. Therefore, microbes adapt to their environment and change in ways that ensure their survival. If something stops their ability to grow, such as antimicrobial, genetic changes can occur that enable the microbe to survive. There are several ways this happens. In selective pressure, in this presence of an antimicrobial, microbes are either killed or if they carry resistance genes, they would survive. These survivors will replicate and their progeny will quickly become the dominant type throughout the microbial population. The diagram showing the difference between non-resistance bacteria and drug-resistance bacteria. In mutation, most microbes reproduce by dividing few Rs, allowing them to evolve rapidly and adapt quickly to the new environmental condition. During replication, mutation arises and some of these mutations may help an individual microbe survive exposure to an antimicrobial. The diagram showing that when bacteria multiply, some will mutate. Some of these mutations can make the bacteria resistant to drug treatment. In the presence of the drugs, only the resistant bacteria survive and then multiply and thrive. In gene transfer, microbes also get genes from each other, including genes that will make the microbe drug resistant. Bacteria multiply by billions. Bacteria that have drug resistance DNA may transfer a copy of these genes to the other bacteria. Non-resistant bacteria receive the new DNA and become resistant to drugs. In the presence of drugs, only drug-resistant bacteria survive. The drug-resistant bacteria multiply and thrive.